Hey everyone, welcome back to the Michael Lofton Show on Reason and Theology. The last few days I did a couple streams on some really unfortunate attacks that took place at Catholic churches recently. The first one was when we discussed a situation in Spokane, Washington, where a man who was in the front row was just very quiet, not moving, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, jumped out of his seat, ran to the bishop and a priest at the altar and immediately punched a priest in the face. We saw that unfortunate event, and a lot of people were asking, what's going on? What was the motivation? There's an update. We found out a little bit more about the situation, so I'm going to talk to you about that, as well as that situation in the Vatican, actually at St. Peter's Basilica, probably the second most important church in the Catholic Church, the largest church in the Catholic Church, where on the main altar there was yet another violation. We saw a few years ago a naked man desecrate the altar. Well, another individual just a few days ago began to attack the altar at St. Peter's Basilica. And so I covered that situation as soon as it came out. But I noted that there really wasn't any information as to the motives and who this person was and what was going on here because it was just so brand new. There's a little bit more information that has come out on that situation. So today I wanted to focus on updating you with information about those two events. If you haven't watched them, certainly go and watch those two videos to help make some sense out of this one. Although you can watch this one first, but I definitely refer you to the other videos. I'll put a link to them in the show notes. And also, let me remind everybody, before we continue, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button if you appreciate the content that you see here from the Michael Lofton Show. All right, well, let me share my screen and show you the first instance that we're going to talk about, that situation in Washington where a priest was punched. We do know that he is okay. Everyone is fine. And the man was, of course, arrested and charged, or is going to be charged with trespassing and assault. I'm not going to be able to show you the video because when I showed it a few days ago, YouTube flagged me for it. So I'm just showing you this screenshot of it. Here is a man wrestling with a priest right behind a bishop. The priest is in altar server clothes, helping assist the bishop during a liturgy. And the man came out of the pew, ran right up here, and punched the priest in the face. The priest then held the man down, and a whole bunch of other people were able to rush to the area and apprehend the man, restrain him, and he was then arrested. So this is the situation that we're talking about today, with a little bit of an update. Okay, so this is from ABC News. Security camera captures man attacking priest during church service. A 40-year-old man attacked a priest during a church service in Spokane, Washington on Tuesday night, according to officials. Around 350 to 400 people had gathered at the Cathedral of Our Lady of Lourdes in downtown Spokane on Tuesday for the second night of a novena, a tradition of gathering for prayer for 9 days or 9 weeks, when the man, identified as Joshua James Summers, allegedly attacked the priest. Well, I don't think it's alleged. I mean, you got video footage of it, right? So I don't know why they had to add um, alleged there. And I also, by the way, did see a commenter say that they were right there in the front row of this event, and they said it was absolutely insane to witness this. So one of the people who was present at it watched the video and posted that in the comment section. Um, okay, so it says security camera footage shows Summers leaving his pew. And that was what was weird. I mean, he was sitting there for a while, undisturbed, showing no signs, and then out of nowhere, you can see in the video footage, rushes to the priest, left his pew, rushing up to the altar. And this was near the end of the service and attempting to strike Reverend David Gaines in the face. He didn't attempt, he did strike him in the face. Gaines was able to pin down Summers with other staff and churchgoers running up to help. It continues. In the footage, Summers lets out screams and Gaines continues to say, "It's okay, just calm down." Okay, I was wondering who was saying that. Y'all remember me talking about you could hear somebody on the microphone telling the person, "It's okay, calm down." But I wasn't sure who was saying that. Was it the bishop? Was it someone else? Turns out that was the priest who was just struck. So the priest who was just struck by the man is trying to calm down the man and tell him, "Hey, it's okay, just calm down." Security guards quickly came to assist, and the Spokane Police Department was also notified immediately of the incident, according to the church. Gaines was not harmed in the attack. He said his face was sore, but that was about it. Father Darren Connell, who was kneeling at the altar when the attack occurred, told ABC News the church had not seen anything quite this serious. All of us were pretty shaken, Connell said. You don't expect to see something like that when you're gathering together to pray and worship. Well, as I've warned y'all, I've told y'all, expect it because it's going to continue to happen. We've been seeing this for years and it's increasing. All of us were pretty shaken, he says. Once Summers was escorted out by police, Connell said the entire group stopped the service and prayed for him. Whatever demons he was struggling with needed to be healed, Connell said. Summers was arrested on misdemeanor assault charges and also has a previous record of harming others. So this is not his first time doing something like this. The man has a record of harming others. In 2023, Summers was charged with third-degree assault after attacking an employee at a mental health facility. Okay, so he was at a mental health facility and he attacks one of the employees. Summers, who was a patient at this facility, allegedly punched the employee multiple times and stole their keys to try and escape, according to the affidavit on those charges. And I also wonder, well, what triggered bringing him in there? I'm sure perhaps some other disturbing behavior. Summers appeared in court Wednesday on assault charges along with the outstanding warrant from his previous assault. He will return to court later this month and remains behind bars. But it's not only that. It's not only that he has a history of this kind of violence. I found this interesting as well. Let me scroll down to the relevant part here. Summers, who was not a member of the church, was brought in by a mother and a son who found him living on the streets. Authorities later informed Gaines that Summers suffers from schizophrenia. Okay, so he's a homeless man. They say suffering from schizophrenia. He's also had, as we see clearly, other problems with violence, but invited in by a mother and a son. So a mother and a son see a homeless man on the street and invite him in. Now, on the one hand, I want to say I totally commend the spirit of love in which this was done, a spirit of caring for someone else, especially a person who's in this kind of situation where they're living on the streets. I totally appreciate the intention here of the mother and the son who wanted to bring something good to this person by bringing them to church. That's praiseworthy. That's commendable. I appreciate the intention, but I do question the wisdom behind it. I do question that. Given that we have seen this kind of stuff before. I question if it is really safe to do stuff like this unless you have security immediately available. I do question the wisdom of going to a person who's living on the street that you know nothing about and telling them to come into the church. Again, on the one hand, you can argue that, well, hey, that person needs to hear the gospel. That person needs to hear the good news. That person needs to be in church. I totally get that. And there's some wisdom in that. There's also some wisdom in saying, well, if the person is living on the street, there could be some additional problems, such as they're claiming, a mental issue, and it could be inviting some problems to the church. So these are things that need to be considered whenever someone perhaps invites a homeless person to church. They do need to be aware that this is a potential risk. And perhaps at the very least, if this is going to be done, there especially needs to be some good security available nearby. So heart was in the right place, intentions were good. I'm not so sure, however, about the wisdom of doing this. Perhaps there was another way to minister to this person without putting people at risk like this. Now, did the mother and son know that they were putting people at risk? No, 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 no. Of course not. Of course not. But now we know, right? And I think we can learn from this. Well, you'll notice that they're immediately saying that this person is suffering from schizophrenia, from mental health issues. And that might be true, right? That might be true. But I do have to say, obviously, there are some other potential options here. There were a lot of people in the comment section when I did the video who said this person is demonically disturbed. Others were saying this person is mentally ill. During the show, I said it could be both and, right? It could be both. A person could be mentally ill and demonically disturbed, or it could be one or the other, right? But I'll point out that it's interesting that always in these cases, people immediately resort to the mental illness card. It may be that. But they tend to leave off the table any option that this could be a person wrestling with perhaps demonic activity in their life. That's just, it seems like that's never on the table. And that's concerning. And here's why. Let me show you something from the Gospel of Luke. Should be able to see it right around now. Okay. So it says, one day he, that is Jesus, got into a boat with his disciples, and he said to them, let us go across to the other side of the lake. So they set out and they sailed. And as they sailed, he fell asleep, and a storm of wind came down on the lake. And so you have that whole story of him calming the waters. And right after that, it says this: then they arrived at the country of the Gerasenes, which is opposite Galilee. And he stepped out on land. There met him a man from the city who had demons. For a long time he had worn no clothes, and he lived not in a house, so he's homeless, but among the tombs. When he saw Jesus, he cried out and fell down before him and said with a loud voice, what have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beseech you, do not torment me. For he had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. So this is a person who is demonically possessed. Now notice, they're homeless. They're clearly disturbed and not wearing clothes. They're violent. This person elsewhere is described as harming himself. And yet, according to the gospel, this person is not just dealing with some sort of mental illness. Maybe it's that, but he's also dealing with demonic possession. Now, I have to say, if a person were to see something like this today, wouldn't they conclude, this is a mental illness? This person is mentally disturbed. But see, the gospel author says this person was demonically possessed, because that is a real possibility. So whenever we see these kinds of reports and stories, well, this person is mentally ill, I always have to say, is that the case? Or are they trying to use that a cover for perhaps something else that is going on? Or are they in denial that there's other realities? It could be that the person is mentally ill. It could be that there's more than that as well. And I think that we don't need to rule out that possibility, but it seems like they always resort to, well, the person is just mentally ill. And I want to say it could be a little bit more than that. There's a lot of stories of exorcists going to a lot of these mental institutions and saying some of those people are not mentally disturbed. They're demonically disturbed. And so perhaps there's some truth to that. Well, similarly, there's an update to the situation with the man who attacked the high altar of St. Peter's Basilica at the Vatican. Let me show you first a quick clip of him doing just that so you're aware of the situation in case you haven't seen it before. And then let me give you an update. All right, so that just happened a few days ago, and I reported on it within hours of it happening. Before the media reported anything about it, I immediately went live and started showing y'all the video and going over what we knew at the time. But we know a little bit more now. Clearly, you can see that man was on top of the altar, very disrespectful, his shoes clearly on holy ground, and yet disrespecting it by doing so, knocking down the candles, the altar cloth, very disrespectful to one of the holiest places in the Catholic world. And the issue is, man was taken down, apprehended, but we didn't know anything else. And so a lot of people were asking, okay, what's going on? Is this person mentally disturbed? Is he possessed? Is some were saying, well, is he like an abuse victim who's getting back at the church for whatever happened to him? Well, again, there were a lot of questions, and we do have a little bit more information now. So let me share my screen so that you can see the update. Man attacks high altar of St. Peter's Basilica at the Vatican. A man desecrated the main altar of St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican by climbing on top of it and throwing 6 candelabras that were on the altar to the ground, according to the Italian news agency. After throwing the candelabras, the man began to remove the altar cloth, as can be seen in a video posted on social media, which is the video I just showed to you. The subject was then quickly detained by security agents. Some people asked, well, why weren't there Swiss guards nearby? And why did they take so long? I don't think we have answers for that. According to ANSA, the suspect of Romanian origin was detained by the Vatican police, after which he was identified and charged by agents of the Vatican. This is an episode of a person with a serious mental disability. Now, there it is again. There it is again. And that could be true. That could be true. But I do have to push back just a little and say, I wonder if it might be more than that, right? And I sometimes wonder if people resort to that too, pretend as if there couldn't be another possibility. In this particular person's case, I don't know. But I do need to mention that. This is an episode of a person with a serious mental disability who has been detained by the Vatican police and then placed at the disposal of the Italian authorities. According to the Spanish newspaper ABC, the man was arrested because the basilica's alarm was activated when he stood on the altar. That's interesting. So an alarm goes off when you stand on the altar. I don't know if that's some alarm that's activated by just motion or something, or there's an alarm that goes off because there's some kind of pressure mechanism there. I don't know. Like I don't know how that works, but that is interesting. And in 2023, a similar incident was recorded when a man climbed the high altar and undressed after he was also arrested. The Code of Canon Law establishes in Canon 1210 that in a sacred place such as St. Peter's Basilica, only those things which serve the exercise or promotion of worship, piety, or religion are permitted in a sacred place. Anything not consonant with the holiness of the place is forbidden. And so there could be a reconsecration or re-blessing or rededication of the altar. Perhaps that will happen soon. But in this particular case, like the other one, they say this is a person with a serious mental disability, supposedly. And again, could be true. But I just wonder if some people sometimes use that as an excuse to ignore perhaps deeper problems, perhaps of a spiritual nature. Just throwing it out there. I don't know for sure in any of these particular cases. A little hard to tell, from this far away. I suppose an exorcist can find out pretty quickly. One of the ways they can determine it is they can, see if the person has the ability to know things that they couldn't possibly know, unusual strength, knowledge of certain languages that they couldn't possibly know, a knowledge of hidden things, and so on. So it'd be pretty easy for an exorcist to find out. But, unless you're an exorcist, you're probably not looking for certain things. And so a lot of those things will tend to be overlooked and they'll just go for the mental illness card. Okay. Well, I wanted to bring this update to your attention and once again remind y'all that I think these attacks will continue to happen regardless of the reasons for them. They will continue. We've been seeing them amp up more. I've also noted to y'all, you don't see them as much in the news, but they are certainly happening. YouTube and others don't report on this as often, but it is certainly happening. Last thing that I want to bring to y'all's attention is a GoFundMe that I put a link to in the show notes for the purpose of doing in-person interviews. So if you want to see more in-person interviews on this channel, I've done a few, but it's very expensive for a number of reasons. If you want to see more RNT in-person interviews, go to my GoFundMe that is in the show notes description. I'll also put it in the comment section and I'll pin it. And you can go and support me there. Basically, this will be for studio location. So a place where I can invite these people to come and do in-person interviews, additional studio equipment, and funds to fly the guests to the location here in Monroe, Louisiana. It's a regional airport, so it's a little bit more expensive than flying into Dallas or Houston or something like that. So it costs a pretty penny. So if you want to see these more often, you want to see guests coming in, intriguing guests, and fascinating discussions on a wide range of subjects, hey, go and consider supporting this GoFundMe. A link is there in the show notes, and I'll put it in the comment section here in just a moment. Thank y'all so much for watching. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the like button. Consider also supporting the channel at Patreon, patreon.com/Reason and Theology. All right, I'll see you next time. God bless everyone. Hey, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the content. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, the like button, and if you want to support the channel, visit patreon.com/Reason and Theology. Are you ready to deepen your faith and sharpen your understanding of theology? Welcome to the Center for Theological Research, your gateway to transformative learning. At CTR, you will find in-depth courses designed to equip you with the tools to grow in your understanding of the faith. Explore courses like the 7 Ecumenical Councils and uncover the foundational truths that shape Christianity. Master the ability to determine the level of a doctrine in the Theological Notes course. And in the Logical Fallacies and Apologetics course, you'll learn to spot the logical errors often encountered in non-Catholic apologetics content. Also, check out the ebooks that are available to you for free. Start your journey today. Visit ctresearch.org and take the next step in your faith formation.